Well, for gossip is over. Thank you and welcome to this evening's Development and Planning Applications Committee. It is being live streamed, so all the normal caveats apply in terms of language, behaviour and the rest, but I've never seen anything that's concerned me here, so I know that I don't really need to say that. We'll start with the apologies for absence, and I'm aware that we've got apologies from Councillor Hicks and Councillor Gillia is substituting, and Councillor Bim has last minute had to stand down from tonight, so we haven't got a substitute there, but there's an apologies from Councillor Bim. Thank you. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest tonight? Okay, I'll take that as no. And we then move on to the minutes of the last meeting, which was held on the 27th of November. Are they agreed as an accurate record of the meeting that night? Thank you. I will sign those. So we're going to start off with the first item on the agenda. No, first item on the agenda, which is the item 5, Rainbow Industrial Estate. Right, so I will first of all I'll ask for introduction from the officer, which is Callum, yes? Yeah. Presenting it. And then we have David Chalmers from the developer, and we have a representative of the public, Giovanni Benini Massotti, who will be speaking after that, 3 minutes each. I have to say that unfortunately the clock that indicates on the screen how much time you have left is not working tonight. We don't know why it's not working, but the traffic light system here will still work, and the amber light comes on when you have 1 minute left, and then when the red light comes on, I will stop you unless you're just about to say, and that's it, or whatever, but I will call time on the 3 minutes. So if we could start please with Callum, could you introduce the item?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, councillors. I'll just share my screen. Okay, so the application site is Rainbow Industrial Estate, located immediately to the west of Rains Park Station. It forms a triangular plot around 1.5 hectares in size and is entirely enclosed by railway lines. Access to the site is only possible via Station Approach, a single private road owned by Network Rail, which provides a single vehicle and pedestrian route into the estate. The current use of the site includes a mixture of industrial buildings, open storage areas, and a set of commercial units constructed in 2019 as part of previous consents. There are no listed buildings or heritage designations affecting the site, and the site lies within flood zone 1, meaning it's at low risk of fluvial flooding. Public transport accessibility is comparatively good, with a P-TAL rating of 3 to 4, reflecting its proximity to Rains Park Station. The site is designated locally significant industrial land and also forms site allocation RP7 within the Mertons local plan. It's worth noting there's a planning history on this site. So in terms of the planning history, members should note that in 2015, the council granted planning permission for a comprehensive mixed use scheme. That earlier permission included 224 residential units, together with approximately 3,500 square meters of commercial floor space intended for B1 business uses and a smaller element of retail and community floor space. It also included a series of residential blocks ranging between 5 and 7 stories and a terrace of 9 townhouses. This consent establishes the principle of higher density residential development on the estate that remains a significant material consideration. A linked application was also approved in 2015. This related to works to Station Approach, specifically works to improve the access to the site, including the creation of a kiss and ride facility outside of Rains Park Station. Further details of these access works were later approved in 2019 under a discharge of conditions applications. Elements of these works have been implemented on the ground, although some remain incomplete, notably the mini roundabout just before the railway bridge. Members should note that as part of phase 1 of the previous consent, around 1,600 square metres of light industrial floor space was delivered in the northern portion of the estate. This remains operational today. The current site allocation in the local plan is listed as RP7 and reflects and builds on the established planning background. The application anticipates an employment-led regeneration scheme alongside new homes and improvements to station approach. Members should note, however, that the changing market conditions since the pandemic have had an impact on the viability of delivering certain types of commercial floor space on this site. This has informed the wholly residential nature of the development considered this evening. So turning to the proposed development, the application seeks full planning permission for the redevelopment of the site to provide 294 new residential homes together with associated infrastructure. The scheme builds on the previous the scheme builds on the principles established by the previous consent, completing the transformation of the estate from industrial use to residential neighbourhood. Development is arranged across a series of 9 residential blocks alongside a terrace of 10 3-storey townhouses. Building heights range from 3 to 8 stories, with the tallest element located in Block G, marking the centre of the site. All buildings are arranged around a central shared open space, supported by a network of pedestrian routes and landscaped areas that create a coherent, legible layout. All buildings are, in terms of housing mix, the development provides an acceptable balance of 1, 2, and 3-bed units, with 19% family-sized 3-bed homes included in the mix. While the proportion of smaller units is slightly higher, this is considered appropriate given the site's location next to Rains Park Station and its strong public transport links. In terms of affordable housing, the applicant proposes 32 affordable homes, representing just under 11% of total units. This is made up of 25 London affordable rent units and 7 intermediate homes. Although this is below the London local plan strategic target of 50%, the affordable housing has been tested through a detailed viability assessment and represents the maximum reasonable level achievable under market conditions. Early and late stage viability reviews would be secured via Section 106 agreement. Moving on to the design of the scheme, officers consider the buildings adopt a simple, robust and well-articulated brick-built architecture, which is considered appropriate for this former industrial setting, and it's also consistent with the character of Rains Park. A carefully selected palette of pale and darker brick tones help break up the massing and create visual interest across the site. Many of the blocks incorporate ornamental brick motifs, recessed panels, and white brick framing around key openings, which give the elevations rhythm and depth. Overall, officers consider design establishes a clear hierarchy of forms, with each building having a clear base, middle, and top, helping to reduce perceived scale. This is complemented by a variety of roof profiles, including the gabled features on blocks C and F depicted here. So overall, officers consider the estate would have a good, coherent, high quality and durable architectural character. A key part of the proposal is also the landscaping. So we think it would deliver a high quality environment throughout the development in terms of landscaping. This includes new tree planting, green roofs, and a variety of planting zones and a central communal open space with dedicated play areas for younger children. It achieves an urban greening factor of 0.4, meeting policy expectation, and also delivers significant biodiversity net gain of over 300% compared to the existing baseline. Officers are satisfied that development would provide a good standard of accommodation for future residents. All homes meet the London Plan space standards with appropriate layouts for storage, private outdoor space provided for every unit. A notable strength of the scheme is that around 70% of homes are dual aspect, which supports better natural ventilation and helps reduce overheating. The scheme also achieves acceptable daylight levels across the majority of rooms, ensuring homes benefit good natural daylight overall. In addition, 32 wheelchair accessible homes are included with the remainder designated to M42 adaptable standard, ensuring the development is inclusive and accessible to a wide range of residents. In terms of neighbouring amenity, officers have carefully considered and assessed the potential for impact on nearby homes. The distance to surrounding properties are generally significant, with separations of around 20 to 40 metres in most directions, which helps limit the effects on outlook, privacy and daylight. Where some reductions in daylight and sunlight are predicted, such as for the block of flats on West Barnes Lane, these remain within acceptable tolerance levels and do not amount to material harm. So overall, officers consider that given the separation distance to neighbouring properties, the barrier of the railway and the results of technical assessments, the scheme would not cause unacceptable impacts to neighbouring amenity. In terms of transport, a full transport assessment was submitted by the applicant, which demonstrates the number of vehicle trips generated by the scheme would remain within acceptable limits and importantly lower than levels permitted under the 2015 consent. Refuse vehicles, fire appliances and delivery vehicles all have been shown to enter, turn and exit the site safely. In terms of parking, the scheme proposes 53 car parking spaces, which is in line with the London Plan standards. This includes 9 blue badge bays, meeting the standards for accessible parking. There would also be 2 car club spaces with residents eligible for 3 years of free membership. The scheme places a strong emphasis on active travel. A total of 530 cycle parking spaces would be provided. Furthermore, there would be a contribution of £50,000 towards improvements in the surrounding active travel zone, focusing on walking and cycling routes to local destinations. Officers have also secured the provision of 2 cycle hire hubs within the site. In terms of station approach, so the access to the site, it is proposed to complete the mini roundabout at the entrance to the site. A new pedestrian crossing is provided at the western extent of the access road. New bollards and road markings would be adjusted in order to ensure the route remains unimpeded for all users. In addition, the applicant proposes to provide enhanced lighting under the railway bridge and resurface the footway to increase safety and security. These works are secured through the Section 106 agreement and conditions and will support safe and legible access to the site. Finally, officers note many of the new residents of the proposal would use Rains Park Station. As members are aware, there's limited step-free access at the station at the moment. Therefore, a financial contribution of £180,000 is secured towards this. So overall, members, chair, officers consider the proposal would complete the regeneration of the Rainbow Industrial Estate, providing a high-quality residential neighbourhood. It would provide 294 much-needed homes, including affordable housing, along with improved public realm, landscaping and better access arrangements via station approach. The development makes an effective use of brownfield land and represents a positive addition to the area. The proposal is in accordance with the development plan when read as a whole and subject to conditions and heads of terms set out in the officer report. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciated a full run through. I got the order wrong when I said who was going to speak. I'm going to ask Giovanna to speak first and then ask David from the developer to speak after. But you have 3 minutes if you're ready to go.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Giovanna Bernini, representing 67 petitioners who urge the committee to refuse this application on the following grounds: breach of policy, D12.6 tall buildings. Merton 2024 local plan explicitly prohibits tall buildings over 21 meters. In Rains Park, this proposal includes 8-story blocks. This is a direct policy breach that ignores the area's modest suburban scale and sets a dangerous precedent for future overdevelopment. Number 2, critical access and safety risk with With 294 units and 440 plus residents, the site relies on a single narrow access point under the railway bridge. The bottleneck creates a severe risk. A single breakdown or delivery could entirely block emergency services, fire and ambulance from reaching the estate, compromising public safety. Number 3, flood risk and groundwater displacement. The site sits on up to 150 of impermeable London clay, replacing the industrial yard with massive deep piled foundations will displace groundwater into a non-critical drainage area. We contend that the proposed attenuation tanks cannot mitigate the sheer scale of displacement, risking further flooding of the local Victorian sewer network. Number 4, threat to London's drinking water. The Thames Water drinking water ring main runs directly beneath the area. Any recurrence of the significant flooding seen historically in Rains Park poses a credible risk of contaminating a major section of London's potable water supply. Number 5, sewer capacity and public health. The local sewer system is already failing following the 2025 removal of U-bends to prevent blockages. Foul gases are now venting at Grand Drive and the station. The current network cannot cope with light industrial waste from 75 people. It will certainly fail under the pressure of 440 plus new residents. Number 6, unsustainable strain on infrastructure. Local GP surgeries and schools are at capacity. The proposed financial contributions are a drop in the ocean and fail to address the cumulative impact on Rains Park overstretched services. Conclusion, these applications represent a clear overdevelopment that contradicts Merton's own planning policies and threatens local infrastructure. We urge you to refuse permission. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for keeping to the time well, so that's appreciated. Can I now move to David Chalmers, please, to give your 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. My name is David Chalmers and I'm a Senior Development Manager at Fairview New Homes. The proposals before you tonight represent the careful and considered redevelopment of the Rainbow Industrial Estate, a long-established brownfield site directly adjacent to Rains Park Station, which is allocated for redevelopment in the Council's adopted local plan. The principle of housing at this site is not new. As noted, planning permission was granted in 2015 for a scheme of similar height and massing, and this application builds on the foundation, responding to one of London's most pressing needs, the delivery of new homes in sustainable and accessible locations. The proposals will deliver 294 high-quality homes, including affordable homes, family accommodation, and wheelchair accessible units, together with generous landscaped green spaces and on-site children play areas. The scheme has been improved during the application process, benefiting from Council's design review process and officer feedback, in which internal layouts have been enhanced, dual aspect homes increased, kitchen living spaces enlarged, and facade detailing refined. Ultimately, the proposals will deliver clear public benefits, including optimising a previously developed brownfield site and making a meaningful contribution to Merton's housing supply, including the delivery of affordable homes. Bringing significant investment into the Rains Park area, including SIL receipts of approximately £7.2 million. Securing 106 contributions towards transport improvements, active travel, health infrastructure, and step-free access at Rains Park Station. The scheme also achieves biodiversity net gain, urban greening, and a strong sustainability framework, all to be secured through condition and associated legal agreement. We are also actively exploring opportunities to increase the level of on-site affordable housing, having submitted a grant funding application to the GLA and are in dialogue with several potential partners, including the Council, to facilitate this. As noted, access and safety has been a key consideration. Detailed technical work confirms that emergency vehicles, refuse vehicles, and servicing can safely access the site, and this is supported by highways officers, TfL, and the Health and Safety Executive, all of whom raised no objection. Importantly, the scheme incorporates improvements to station approach, which include the completion of the previously consented kiss and ride facility, enhancing the pedestrian environment around the station for both new and existing residents. Finally, at the heart of these proposals is the clear objective to unlock this stalled site with a scheme that is viable and ready to come forward. Fairview does not operate a land bank, Instead, we acquire sites unconditionally and focus on swift delivery from acquisition through to construction. This is no exception. Subject to your support tonight, we aim to commence construction works in early spring with first completions forecast for late summer 2027. To conclude, the proposals before you have been carefully assessed by your officers, and we respectfully ask members to support the recommendation and grant planning permission. Thank you, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you also then for time on that. Much appreciated. So we move on to the question time then on the applications. I've got Councillor Hayes, Councillor Willis.
Protocol, does Mike go first? No? Okay. Just we're due to get a lift at Rains Park, aren't we? I think. Is that right? Yeah. So I wonder how's that going to be integrated into the tunnel development? And I mean, that tunnel, even for someone like me, it's quite late, early evenings, late at night. It's a bit spooky. What's the lighting going to be? I mean, what type of lighting will it be? And will it be lighting that can't be easily vandalized? Thanks.
Yeah, so by all intents and purposes, the area underneath the railway bridge will need to be lit so it's safe and secure. In terms of the actual specification of lighting, that will need to be agreed post-consent, which is secured by condition. That will be in consultation with the applicant and their consultants, but also Network Rail. But yeah, a key focus for us post-consent will be ensuring the lighting under the bridge and along the access is up to standard, so that anyone coming out the station and getting into the application site, there's feelings of safety and security.
Well, is there any model we can in our heads we can think to that we know of on Network Rail on the lighting?
Yes, I'll ask the applicant to consider that one. Maybe to answer. What, do you want to answer that now? Look, we're talking of the cattle arch.
Yeah, I mean, all I would add is that we are delivering 294 homes into that site. We need to make it safe, accessible for our future residents to underpin the sales. It's in our interest to make that as safe as well lit as we possibly can. The details will come through as a condition as we spoke through, but there are certain guidance that we'll have to abide by, and it will be done in conjunction with your officers.
Thank you for that. We've heard from a resident about concerns about local services. We saw in the pack that there are enough school places, but on the NHS in particular, I think the NHS asked for 196 grand and it's been talked down to 98 to balance of affordable homes. How can we make sure that is spent locally? Because the reason that residents often don't like planning is they don't think that anything gets built, and yet this is a large amount of money. Is there anything we're able to put into the report that would actually make sure it was spent in Rains Park?
So in terms of the NHS contribution, that would have to meet the Section 106 tests, which means it has to be reasonable in scale and climate to the development and be directly related to the development. So, essentially, when that money can be spent, when a project comes forward, it have to be relevant to the development. So, yeah, we're kind of working within the parameters of the Section 106 test there, and our Section 106 officer would deal with that.
Could I just bring in the legal representative there to see how that could be phrased in the agreement or otherwise?
Yeah, we can capture all of that within the wording of the 106. I deal with all of the 106. So if there's anything about where the money will go in terms of allocation, locality, that can be set out within the terms of the 106 itself. Not a problem.
Thank you, Chair. Callum, you might be best for this. Just hearing the residents, for such a large development, the strain on the sewers, water, can you just reassure members of the panel here what tests might have been done and how it will manage to cope with it?
Yeah, so Thames Water consulted on the application and they've raised no objections subject to certain conditions. The application's also been reviewed in detail by our flood risk officer, and part of the drainage strategy is also is a focus is working around the existing sewer network and making sure that all drainage drains into that sewer network properly. For anything further technical, it's the applicant might be able to add, but yeah, it's no objections from Thames Water, so we kind of go from there really.
See if there's any. I don't think there's any other questions, so I could come. Oh, Councillor Galea first before we go to second one. Do you have a supplementary on that?
No, another question, actually,
I'll
if I
come
may,
back to
Chair.
another question.
That's fine, thank you.
Yeah, first questions first.
Hi, I just noticed, again, sorry, it's my background. I noticed that there's a reference to the inclusive design statement missing. Has this been received? When do you expect this? Thank you.
Yeah, so during the course of the application, we asked for a little bit more information on inclusive design. I think it might be in the consultation section you're referring to. And what the applicant did is they provided some more detail on inclusive design, including specific layouts of the wheelchair units, just to make sure we were satisfied with those. So they're providing the recommended wheelchair units in line with the London plan, but also we have condition for the landscaping as well, which should ensure that the landscaping is suitably legible for wheelchair users and also any other sort of disabilities.
Thank you, Chair. So we've already heard from Councillor Hayes. I think he's referring to the Brains Park station moving from feasibility to the design stage, which has just been announced. So my understanding is that the Network Rail wanting 590 grand for this, and then it's been, I think, probably for the same reasons, brought down to 180, which is understandable. But council itself has committed 500 grand to Brains Park step free in its budget process. So is the 180 grand that Network Rail requested going to Network Rail, or is that 180 going to go to the council through section 106 to be part of the council's 500 grand?
So as I understand it, both portions of money basically are available to Network Rail as part of their bid to the Department of Transport and to try and gain funding. So the funding would go to Network Rail as far as I'm aware.
Would that make it a total of 680 or?
Well, yeah, I think because there's money for the Met, funny for the NHS. I just want to check that this money was for Network Rail, so would it actually be in addition to the council's contribution?
Addition.
Yes, in addition.
Right, thank you. Councillor Foley.
Thank you, Chair. Callum again. I think this will maybe come under section 106. The approach there is very narrow. Obviously, I'm familiar with it. We've got the photos that you put up on the slides there. Is there? I'm just concerned about lighting. On the few occasions I've gone down there of an evening before, it is very dark and somewhat sinister. I'm just wondering what improvements are going to be made there, and if there is any way that any section 106 money could be put perhaps towards some CCTV to align with the authority's VORG strategy, because I think coming home at night, those, well, in fact all residents, if they go out for a jog or coming home late at night, it's quite a stretch that to walk back from the station to a flat, and there would be a feeling of vulnerability there, I think, for some. Thank you.
Thank you. So the land which you're referring to under the bridge, essentially where it's quite dark, that is Network Rail land, but the developer would have rights to implement works to that access. So it wouldn't be money from section 106 that would be channeled, but it is something we could secure from the developer in a sense. So we have a condition which secures details of works to the access, and lighting would be part of that. Yeah, that we could also potentially add CCTV as a component to that condition, if that's feasible.
Thank you. It was more not just the bit where the tunnel is, that whole stretch. I don't know if you could just put that slide back up there. I know we all know it, you'll see it, but it's just No, with the bridge, you know, the access road. Yeah. Yeah, we need yours up there. Well, that's one of them. I'm just trying to see if it's on that slide. But it is a very narrow sort of pinch point. But there we are. Yes, you can see that curve. It's just the lighting along that wall and section, because obviously at the moment it's embankment, it's nicely overgrown, plenty of wildlife, but very dark. And I'm just wondering if there's, well, maybe the applicant might be able to say if there's anything going to be put in there. I know we don't want to upset bats and wildlife, but I'm thinking more of those vulnerable people walking back there late evening.
Yes, so I'm taking your point. I will ask the applicant to respond to that, and also whether you would include a commitment to CCTV as part of the application.
Well, first of all, on the lighting, you can see on the screen there, the actual marks along the viaduct wall, they are indicating indicative lighting. So we're sort of proposing wall lighting that will be low lit, environmentally friendly. In terms of CCTV, yes, it's something we can explore at the entrance and at certain points along that section. Something we could discuss with the secured by design officer as well, as also a condition secured in the permission for that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? That's third, correct. Or are you moving on to comments now?
No, I've got several questions, but if I
Right.
can like maybe intersperse. I haven't got like 1,000 more. On the theme of CCTV, because it was in the Designing Out Crime report that we recommend a CCTV strategy. Building B, I don't know if you've got a map. Basically looking at, there's quite a thin corridor behind Building B, which to me just sort of shouted out ASB because it backs onto the existing commercial. So there's like a slither. So you can't really see it on that map, but actually the footway entrance is between the terraces and Building B to access the like the thing. Is that just basically going to be used for a fire escape and that type of thing? And could there potentially be some sort of CCTV there just due to the levels of ASB around the station as it is at the moment? Thank you.
That's, I mean, I think we can include that in any anything we put into any, if it's agreed to any condition, where the CCTV should be. Or you actually asking for that now, or just?
It could be an advisory, I suppose, in regards to CCTV. If we, you know, we can't make it a condition, it's not necessarily reasonable. Just, you know, we would advise CCTV along the bend as recommended by Councillor Foley, and in the gap by Building B as recommended by Councillor Willis, something like that.
Build that in. That's what the committee agrees in the end. Thank you.
That would be acceptable, Chair.
Yes. Okay. Councillor Gillier.
Two little ones. In I didn't see mention of Swift boxes, and in the absence of Councillor Hicks, I know she loves them. Is this a development that asks for it, and could we have that? And then my actual question is, I noticed some comments about the bin storage and the cycle storage being restricted, although when I looked at the plan, they didn't look restricted. So are you, the planning officer, happy with that layout? And also especially when it comes to, I know there isn't a strategy yet for bin collection, but we're having a lot of issues where in our wards where we have this, like these flats, and when wheelie bins attract fly tipping. So I just want to make sure that on the day of collection, you know, there's a good space where they can be left out or whatever. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So on your first point on Swifts, so obviously there's a promise of biodiversity net gain on site, which up to 300%. So how that's delivered is a standard biodiversity net gain condition. And as part of that, they would have to detail particular ecological enhancements to deliver that biodiversity net gain. So there'd be a range of measures, and Swift boxes or habitats for swifts could be part of that. On your second point on bins, yeah, we've reviewed that with the waste officer and also highways colleagues. Essentially, all the blocks would have purpose-built, good quality bin storage, which would be accessible by refuse lorries. And it's likely once the development comes forward, there'd be an appointed management company who would sort out the arrangement in terms of servicing.
Thank you, Chair. And just to add to and reinforce what Callum has said, in terms of the Swift boxes or Swift bricks, yeah, we do, the condition does leave it to the developer to propose a series of measures for ecological enhancements, but to assist with that, we can add an informative to specify the importance of Swifts, and that, you know, the committee would wish for that to be included in the scheme.
Manley.
Helps if I press the right button, doesn't it? I don't recall seeing it, but could you advise me how many disabled bays have been allocated in the parking, and what EV charging point provision has been allocated? Thanks.
Okay, so in terms of the disabled park, there'd be 9 blue badge bays, and in terms of EV, all of the EV, I think all of them would be. Yeah, I think all. Yeah, the developers are nodding. Yeah, so all of them would be EV, have EV charge points, including the disabled bays. Yeah.
There's not many. Network Rail actually in there, if you bring up on their page, I think it's 28th of August, they asked for a condition, which I didn't see in the end of the pack, which related to the fencing. And so I just didn't know whether that had been discussed and wasn't able to be listed as a condition, or whether we were able to include their requested condition, which is that basically report on the anti-trespass fencing would be agreed before the development progressed. If that makes sense. I can find you the link if you like.
I think there's a
Gentleman,
I think there's a condition in there for boundary treatment, which would be in consultation
Network
with
Rail.
Network
Okay.
Rail.
'Cause
So I
it's
think
about-
that's covered off.
Because just the anti-trespass stuff there, because that whole stretch has had a lot of plants stolen, and the Friends of Rains Park reported trees being set on fire on that bend. So
If I may, there's a number of agreements that we have to go with Network Rail that sit outside the planning permission, things that are called BAPAs,
Okay.
which are in negotiation with Network Rail presently. That comes down to things as boundary treatment, which will be done to all their specific standards, palisade fencing to a certain height, which they'll have full control over, given the proximity to their railway lines.
Following on Councillor Manley's question about parking and blue badge parking specifically, how's the proportion? Because obviously we've got 32 accessible homes, and generally disabled people, you know, need private vehicles more than non-disabled people. How has this percentage kind of been approved or accepted?
Sorry, would you mind explaining it a little bit more?
You said there's
Distribution of the disabled parking bays amongst the properties, the houses, and the disabled properties.
yeah, because obviously we've got 32 properties against only 9 accessible
Right.
parking.
So it's not, to be honest, it's not detailed in the application itself, but as with most applications, they're subject to a car parking management plan, where those details would be set out. So if that's something we could add an informative to in relation to that car parking management plan, which would focus on the distribution and make sure that's catered to.
Thank you. I think even with non-accessible parking bays, I would say priority should go to those residences, assuming they're sold as accessible homes. Thank you.
this is my last question, then I have comments, which is, I think I remember reading the report, and I'm sure the applicant will be able to let me know, that the idea was that Kiss and Ride, as it's been called, the roundabout part of that delivery would be delivered at the end of construction just to prevent any damage during, which, you know, makes sense from a logical point of view. But for the people that didn't see it delivered after the last planning application, I just wonder whether there is a way that it could be, you know, worded in such a way to at least be before, you know, the last ones are built, or something just a bit earlier in the process, even if it has to be sort of renovated later. Not least because you'll remember the other application on First Way, 4951, the rear of land one, 23P 1997, which is actually in that site. So you know, for that construction to happen, the substation needs to move. The applicant's already bought the piece of land that's required for. Fantastic, all great to go, but we need to see that happening to progress both builds in Rains Park. So wondering if that could be brought forward, if at all possible.
Thank you. Yeah, so we've been mindful of this, and we want to ensure that those works to the access are done. But obviously, that needs to be balanced with ensuring you don't build the access and then it gets carved up by construction vehicles. So what we've done is, with the developer, we've agreed under head of term 5 that the access work should be completed no later by 50% of the occupation of the units across all phases. So that just gives us, by that point, hopefully most of the main construction will be done, and the access will be delivered. So we think that strikes the right balance.
Is it a question, or I was going to move on to comments now? Last one then.
Sorry, one last question, because I'm assuming, or I'm hoping anyways, the green area on the buildings are not terraces but green roofs, because obviously they went lower on the side of the tracks, so I'm just wanted to confirm that there's no terrace at high level looking over the kind of the neighboring.
That's correct. So on that image, all the roofs that were shown in green, they're green roofs. They're not terraces.
Thank you.
Any? Oh yes, Councillor Patterson.
Start in the future, I heard. When do you envisage it to be totally completed?
One for the applicant, yeah.
You're testing me now, but the first completions are forecast for summer 2027. Following that, I would say it'd be another 2 years to final completion. So we're looking at about summer 2029 to be off-site and fully completed. I can confirm exact dates though, if you'd like.
Comments. Councillor Foley, Councillor Willis. Yes.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, my comments on this, I'm afraid it's the usual one I say about the parking. I know it satisfies the London plan, and I just need to say it because I wish developers would fit in more parking. I think it makes them easier to sell. They get more money for them. They're easier to rent. The social housing, that's a shame, but I'm hoping that perhaps maybe the council will buy a block. Who knows? But it is a big development. But I also think, having lived in Rains Park myself for a number of years, many years ago, over 30 years ago, I've known this site, and it is ripe for development. And it's a shame it's only got that access road. There's lots of things, and looking at it, I think the developers have done. It's a very good scheme. Again, I know I've had my reservations, the parking that, but I'll be supporting it tonight because I think it's a much better use of the scheme. I do have those concerns. I'd love parking, but you never get 10 out of 10. But it ticks a lot of boxes, and that site needs something doing to it. This is much better. Will be good for Rains Park, I think. So yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Some of my comments are similar. It's amazing that London continue to put policy in that just isn't realistic to residents. For example, that whole stretch of Apostles is CPZ, and residents have said if you only put 53 car parking spaces in, then all of their evenings when the CPZ doesn't apply is going to be a nightmare. So actually, you'd be pleased that there are still 53 car parking spaces in the application, because TfL in the report says they would have been quite happy for it to be car free completely. So thank you for including those car parking spaces and the 3% blue badge spaces. I'd like to thank Callum and other officers for the good report. It's very clear, easy to read, and also for all the changes in the application to achieve the amount of dual aspect that is now there since the original DRP. I do acknowledge the £30,000 to the Met. There is a lot of ASB around that corner, so hopefully the Met getting 30 grand will also assist you and it not be fully up to the developer to police. I would encourage their lease of the adjacent station house, which I've talked to police about before, as a local police base, because that's still empty and cheap from Network Rail. The low level of affordable housing was a concern for me as well. But I do appreciate the comments from the applicant that they confirm they're looking to the GLA to make up the shortfall. At least a 20%, please, would be good. And I do acknowledge everything that the residents have said. You know, I originally was concerned about emergency vehicles under the tunnel. I've seen the sweep path analysis and know that it's fine. You know, I will acknowledge that nearby Firstway also has only one way in and one way out, so these roads do exist in Rains Park. But we do need to look at the local plan, and this site is allocated in RP7, so it is according to Merton's plans, and the principle of development has already been established over a decade ago, so it would be very difficult to object to the plans based on the fact that there'd be apartments there at the height that they are. So my last comment is, in the officers will know because we've been in touch with it over several years, I am so pleased that it is in the Section 106 agreement that the developer will be required to exercise reasonable endeavours, that famous line, to facilitate the adoption of station approach by the Highway Authority, because that section entering past the station belonging to a private developer, as it did Workspace before the current owners, it's very difficult to manage. Residents can't put fly tipping on Fix My Street, etc. So it'll be a lot better going forward. So thank you for that.
Any other comments? So I've picked up on some issues to do with safety lighting under the cattle arch and that facility. Some assurance that the NHS funding would be dedicated to the area, and that the inclusive design aspects would be enhanced or enshrined in it, and CCTV to be something, I think, to be the actual details to be agreed later on, but the words have been said about the areas that are of concern. So for any of those 4 points, is there anything we need to write in to any, if the committee is minded to agree the application tonight, any assurance that can be given to committee members?
Yes, Chair. So I would suggest that in terms of the contributions being spent locally, that needs to go in the Section 106 legal agreement. It's really a case of enhancing, just adding to the conditions, the existing conditions that we've already got in terms of safety lighting, inclusive design. Also, we should put on an informative for CCTV at Block B. That was suggested as well. An informative about Swift boxes to support the ecological enhancement condition, and an informative about the car parking management plan with priority for those in the accessible homes. So that's how we would just add to the decision notice.
If there are no further comments to make, I propose we move to the vote on this then. Is the application with those additional comments agreed? Are those in favour?
9, that's unanimous, Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much. So that application is agreed with those conditions. Okay, thank you. We move on. Item 6 was planning appeal decisions. We'll get ready for those in a moment. While let's leave. Thank you.
Jack,
Thank you.
you put up that document.
Can I call us to order now for the planning appeals report? I'll ask to lead on that.
I'll present this, Chair.
Yes. Thank you.
So so the overall position with the appeals this time around, Chair, is really good. We had 7 decisions. They were all in respect of officer made delegated decisions. There's no learning for the committee as such, but we won 5 of them, so that's a good proportion. And the 2 we lost are quite interesting, really. I'd be quite intrigued to know what members think, actually. So the first one was for a lawful development certificate to carry out the works that you can see on the screen, the shaded works to extend the roof. And to us, that looked really quite substantial. And we came to the view that we thought to accommodate those extensions, really that's tantamount to a new roof. You're looking at basically a whole new construction of a roof, in which case we shouldn't grant a lawful development certificate, because a lawful development certificate can only be granted for genuine extensions, and if it is a reconstruction, then that needs planning permission. So it wasn't as though we were necessarily going to refuse the development in the end, but what we were saying is we didn't think it should be a certificate, we thought it should be an application. And the inspector disagreed and thought that that could be done as a genuine extension. So it's a technical point, really, but the certificate was allowed, so it can be built. So we'll just have to think about our learning there and perhaps bring building control in next time. But to us, it's a brand new roof. But well, I think we'll just maybe disagree on that one. And if you could scroll down, please, Jade, to the other plans. This is it. Yeah. So this was at 150 Shretton Road in Mitcham. Now, members can see the outbuilding there that's highlighted with the red outline. There are 3 images there of a proposed outbuilding in the back garden that would have been separated from the main dwelling and an attached rear extension to it. This outbuilding would be 3 meters high to the ridge. Now there is an outbuilding next door that is 3 meters high, but that was to the top of a pitched roof, and we thought that a pitched roof, if this was to go 3 meters high, that there should be a pitched roof there as well, and that the 3 meter point should be at the very top ridge line of that. But the inspector disagreed with us and thought that a flat roof up to 3 meters high would be acceptable. So that was a difference of opinion as well. We thought the design could be better, but the inspector decided that was acceptable. So again, it's another experience where the inspectors seem to be allowing more now in terms of house extensions and outbuildings. So if we get another one of those, we'll have to consider that in the context of this decision. So they were the 2 main issues arising from the appeals, Chair.
Comments on those? Councillor Hayes got some of this.
Thanks, John. It's just what I'm loath to raise as such a short meeting, but is there any way of a guideline on these extensions on the backs of houses? As you know, Gravelly, we had a reputation of being HMO central, and there's still, there's still quite a few of them where they're just completely separate buildings. Is there any kind of guideline we can get on these, if you understand what I'm saying?
It's a really good question. It's something that we've been looking at very carefully, actually, and we've not got this set out. But some outbuildings, you see them and you think, yeah, that's a genuine outbuilding. They're going to use that as an ancillary office or whatever. Okay, it's got a small bathroom in there, but you can see it's genuinely going to be for incidental purposes. Some outbuildings, you can see that there's basically everything in there, and potentially there's an access that could go to the back, and essentially you think, well, this could be heading towards an independent unit here. So what we're trying to do is we're looking at what rooms are being provided, the size of those rooms and the size of the outbuilding in its entirety. And if it's above a certain threshold, then if we believe that something looks like it's going to be genuinely incidental and stay that way, then we would secure that via a condition. But if we think that it may go beyond that, we're actually asking applicants to sign up legal agreements so that if they were brought into use as an independent unit, potentially you could serve an injunction against that.
Can I just supplement that? I mean, I was thinking that, I mean, we've got a shed at the end of our garden, like a mini house, but we haven't got electricity and we haven't got sewage. Now, I was thinking, well, maybe if you said, if you're looking for electricity and you're looking for sewage, those two things, that's a kind of a layer. But obviously, some people use houses as places of work, you know, like home office. So
Yeah.
is there anything that we can, other than what you've said, to sort of like put something out that says to be on the lookout? Because when you look out, you know, over a lot of houses now, particularly in where I live, there's an awful lot of like outhouses, and you can see there's obviously people living there as homes, or you know, and it just seemed to be a bit of a worrying development. That's it. Thanks.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, when we look at the plans, I think the room sizes, because of the space standards and the minimum space standards, that is the starting point. But we could perhaps look at asking for notifications from building control and maybe utilities companies if these are being connected up, and perhaps then that we could put that on our enforcement radar.
I was just going to say that I'm really pleased that you are challenging people on these things, because the rules are rules, right? And actually, as far as our residents are concerned, they don't understand why you can basically build something different to what is approved, and then the council just goes, oh, we'll just put in an application for what you've built and we'll give you retrospective planning permission because we would have given it to you in the first place. So I would encourage you to continue pushing on these things and just ask whether we were awarded costs against us in either of those cases.
No, we would have had to have been found to have acted unreasonably for there were no applications submitted anyway, but even if there were for costs, we would have had to have acted unreasonably. And in both cases, they were subjective judgments that we felt we made a good case for. The inspector just disagreed. That was all.
Thank you. So is that item noted? Thank you. We move on then to planning enforcement summary of current cases. Starting at page 191. Anything to report there particularly?
Yeah, so just the overall picture within enforcement's chair. So we've got 250 cases now. That's come down slightly again because we got 5 new complaints, but we closed 10. So that is a manageable number for the team. We're still serving notices. We've served 3 more breach of condition notices, a new enforcement notice, and yeah, we've got 5. We've got 5 in total at the moment. However, we've got 2 more cases in the list tonight. It does seem that invariably when we do serve notices that an appeal comes in against that. So we're writing 2 appeal statements at the moment, and they're not going through the planning inspectorate quickly. We've currently got 9 with the planning inspectorate, and we don't know when we're going to get those decisions. So it's not as though the work's over when we serve the notice and we can expect compliance. The appeal process is quite time consuming. It's a lot of work, and yeah, and it's uncertain as to when that will be resolved. So that keeps the team busy. We've had 135 new tree applications. We've determined 95% of those on time, which is a good statistic. So just in terms of the enforcement notices, we've got one for a householder development, and we've got a breach of condition notice at Mostyn Road. We've got another enforcement notice at Tavistock Road. They've all been served quite recently, so we don't know whether they'll be complied with or not yet. We've got 2 Section 215 notices in place, one for the BT Wimbledon Telephone Exchange, 32 Castleton Road and 5 Netley Gardens. So we'll hopefully get those cleared up. And yeah, it's just a case really of seeing if the landowners comply with the existing breach of condition and enforcement notices, and how we get on with the 2 appeals we've got in place. Just on the Burnbullock, we've I know that, yeah, I'd like to update when I can. I've produced a draft options appraisal for that, and so that is now being circulated. I've sent that to the senior management. They will discuss that at the departmental leadership team meeting, and I would have thought the corporate leadership team meeting, and then the executive member, and then it will be shared more widely with members. So that's ready, and it's about you. Yeah, it won't be long before you get sight of that. And just trying to think if there's anything else. Oh yes, we're continuing our untidy land programme as well. We've got our next 2 sites lined up. We're continuing with Veolia at the moment. It's not the main aspect of their contract with the council, of course. So we're still trying to stick to the plan of 1 or 2 a month. So we're trying to get one underway before the end of this month.
Councillor Manley.
Thank you for your update on Burn, but I do actually have a little question about Burnbullock. I mean, obviously, you know, living next door to it, I'm aware of the great chunks that are falling out every day. And just really for the record, where are we with the scaffolding going back up and a tin hat? Has the owner responded to you in any way, shape or form? And if not, where are we with protecting the building, which frankly, if there's anything left of it this time next year, I'd be amazed.
Yeah, so we're receiving no information from the landowner, I'm afraid. That's no, nothing at all. And so yeah, yeah, I can't say too much obviously about the options appraisal until it's gone through the right process, but it won't surprise you to know that the scaffolding and making the building safe and stable is in there.
I think thank you very much for that update. That concludes our meeting tonight. As many of you know, the last 8 weeks have been difficult for me personally. The night after the last meeting is when my mum was taken ill, and we had her funeral yesterday. So it's been a very tough 8 weeks, and I appreciate all the support I've had. So thank you. Safe journeys home tonight, and we'll see you at the next meeting, which could be interesting. Because it'll have an item on it. Yes, that's what I mean. So the next meeting is the 26th of February. Yeah. Okay. Yes, keep it free. The meeting will go ahead that night. Yes. Okay. Thank you then. Right.